So Joseph, Moses, Larrabee.
Joshua.
Joshua.
Joshua Moses Larrabee.
Joshua, but you go by Moses.
I do go by Moses nowadays. That's a relatively new thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so my full legal name is Joshua Michael Larrabee. I took on the name Moses, and actually that's probably topical that I have this in my hand. My wife and I both converted to Eastern Orthodox Christianity.
Oh, okay.
There's only one parish here in Yuma, one little parish. It's a mission parish. It's St. Paisios.
Okay.
It's actually right down 32nd Street, not too far from here. When it's very traditional in Eastern Orthodoxy whenever if you're born into it, or if you convert, to take on a name of a saint, to take on a patron saint. If you're a convert, like we were, you spend a lot of time praying about it, talking to your spiritual father, typically your priest, talking to your spouse, talking to other people about it, and just reading the lives of these saints.
Where do you find that stuff?
Oh, it's all over the place. Nowadays, we're actually really lucky. There's a lot of this. The Eastern Orthodoxy is heavily rooted in the East, basically from Greece eastward.
Okay.
And in fact, for the first 1,000 years of the church, there was just the church. Roughly 1054, the Great Schism, that's where the Roman Church and the other patriarchates of the church split. So now we have Roman Catholicism and we have Eastern Orthodoxy, and there are some others, but that's getting into the weeds of church history.
Sure. So it's Catholicism.
It's small C Catholic, as opposed to large C Catholic. Okay. So Catholic just meaning universal. Universal.
Right.
Yeah.
But it grew out of the Council of Nicaea.
Yes. So we do hold to 7 ecumenical councils, and all of those councils happened before the Great Schism, and actually Rome holds true to all those councils as well. There are some differences between Eastern Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism. One, papal infallibility. We obviously don't ascribe to that. We're not in communion with Rome, so we wouldn't agree that the Pope in Rome is infallible or has the ability to speak infallibly. I'll do justice to my Catholic brothers and sisters. I think a lot of people straw man them a bit and say like, oh, they think anything the Pope says is always true. Well, it's not even the Catholic teaching, but we don't ascribe to his infallibility or capability to speak infallibly, and we don't ascribe to his supremacy over the other bishops.
Okay.
So anyway, it's very common whenever you convert to take on the name of a patron saint. Nowadays, we're blessed that all of this stuff is in English and you can find it.
Yeah.
And so I was reading the lives of the saints, just reading, and I've stumbled upon this man, Saint Moses the Ethiopian. And I felt so moved by his struggles. First of all, he was, as is true with many saints, he was a terrible man. To
begin with.
Yeah, sure. To begin with, a terrible person. And he admitted as much as himself in his life. This was in the period of time, if you have any viewers that want to look it up, called the period of the Desert Fathers. He was an Ethiopian, and he was in Egypt at the time. He was a slave, and he was a bad slave. That's the simple truth. He was a bad slave. He was such a bad slave that his slave master said, it is more cost saving for me to just release you. To even take the time to kill you would be too much work and money.
Wow.
So he threw him out. And to make a very long story short, he went out and he became a thief and a killer. And according to some accounts, he even committed, many sexual sins, rape, assault, things like that. Basically, he ran a group of men in the desert as thieves and killers. A gang, more or less. A desert gang. Desert pirates, if you want to. He stumbled into a monastery one day, and this is, again, shortening his story quite a bit, and found himself just struck by the power of God. Fell at the knees of the abbot, begged him, help me, save me. Okay, took him in. Moses was incredibly tall and strong of body. That was one of the things that he was known for.
That's why you identify with him.
I don't know if I would say I identify with all of those things, but I try to. I did find that very inspiring because he was so strong. And he spent the rest of his life in that monastery praying. And he even actually got some of the thieves that knew him came to the monastery, attacking the monastery. And there's at least one account of him. Two of these thieves busted into his cell, and these cells for the monks are these small rooms that they live in. Busted into his cell and were going to kill him. And he's been fasting for 7 days at this point. And he's still strong enough. He beats them up, ropes them up, and drags them to the abbot of the monastery and says, basically, I can't be trusted with what I'm going to do to them, so I leave them to your mercy. And then goes back to his cell and walks away. So there was a lot of other things that I was reading about him, but I found him very inspiring because he was a man that saw his own flaws, realized his failings, and didn't hide from it, just accepted it and said, okay, well, I need to work on these things. And through the grace and compassion of God, he was able to do those things. And he actually died protecting the other monks. His last recorded words from the last monk that saw him was as he was holding a door to a raid of thieves again in the desert. He's holding a door, and he says, because I lived by the sword, I'll die by the sword. And he held that door, literally just holding it closed. They're stabbing him through the door. And that was the last anybody saw of him alive. So
Why do you identify with him, do you think? Have you thought about that?
yeah. One, the sins in specific that he struggled with.
I wondered about
violence.
That. You feel like you've been
Well,
a time in your life where you had
incredible.
like you were unforgivable?
Oh yeah. I mean, I still feel that way sometimes. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to confession, and and I confess the things that are on my heart, and I've been blessed with a really kind spiritual father, Father Ambrose here at St. Paisios, and he's told me a lot of different things. But one of the things he's told me was, hey, don't worry, because if your salvation depended on your work, you'd already be screwed. That's not exactly his words.
No,
he's like, you didn't stand a chance. You never stood a chance. So it's always been that reassurance. And then another thing that he's also reassured me with, whenever I go to him and say, Father, I'm really struggling with ABC. And as, again, very Eastern Orthodox response. Oh, you're struggling? Good. Keep struggling. Great. And that's, of course, that's the idea that as long as you're struggling, you're fighting against it, you're working against it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But yes, the sins that he struggled with, the violence, the hatred, the refusal to serve anyone. Yes, the lust and all of those things. I mean, those are all things, and I'm sure any man out there can relate to those things. And so I found those very inspiring. So when we converted, I took him on as a patron saint. And so more often than not, especially when I'm meeting new people, I just introduce myself as Moses. That's my name there in the church. And so that's what I go by.
I think that's really cool. I mean, I'm not familiar with that so much nowadays. I mean, you see that in the scriptures a lot in the New Testament.
Yeah.
Paul, Saul.
Yep.
I mean, when they completely convert or change their heart and start to follow Jesus Christ, they often take on a new identity because that old person's dead to them.
Yeah. The old man must die so the new man can live.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I found that to be interesting. This idea that Christianity is a faith of paradoxes. To have life, you must die, right? You must die to yourself. To have eternal life, you must die to yourself.
I see.
Right? Christ conquered death by death.
Interesting.
Right.
Yep.
And that's actually in some of the hymns, we sing in these hymns, and, we though that's a phrase that I took from one of the hymns in the church. He conquered death by death,
Sure.
or destroyed death by death. And so it's
both deaths, spiritual and
and physical, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And so it is a faith of contradictions and paradoxes.
But it's beautiful at the same time. It's almost like a yin and a yang.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's, and as you bring up yin and yang, I think that both in all expressions of Christianity, and I think to greater and lesser extents in many faiths across the world, I have seen fragments of truth.
Absolutely.
I've seen fragments of truth. The reason I came to the Orthodoxy was, again, I was searching the truth. And so how do I get to the truth? Well, I'm searching for the fullness of it. And I think, in my opinion, for what little it may be worth, I think the Orthodoxy does have the fullness of the truth. So
why were you looking? I mean, what in your life was happening such that you're like, something's got to change. Like something's not working here.
it was not an overnight thing. It was not an overnight thing. Maybe you can relate, maybe you can't, but I was raised in the very American Christian household. If you were to ask anybody in my household growing up, hey, what faith is this house? Oh, we're Christian. Mm-hmm. What church do you go to? We occasionally go to church on Easter, maybe Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve we go to church. Occasional Sundays, maybe a nephew's getting baptized. Mm-hmm. Cool. That was about it. And as far as the actual, did I see any scripture reading in my house? None. Did I see any actual Christian practices? None. But so we're raised in Christian by name only. And that shifted a little bit as I got a little older into my teenage years. But I just remember feeling disillusioned with the faith. I was thinking to myself, we were going to almost not quite a mega church. I was born and raised in Indiana.
I was going to ask that.
And Crossroads Christian Church, which I now hold no hard feelings against them whatsoever. So if anybody from them ever sees this, no hard feelings to you guys.
Nobody watches. I told you that.
That's fine. Good. All right, I'm safe. But I remember at this almost mega church style of church, non-denominational, I remember looking around and saying, knowing the people I knew, knowing the people in service in the church, knowing the other kids that were my age, and looking around and going, if this is the faith, I don't think this is it. It doesn't seem real to me. It seems put on.
A show? Yeah,
like a show.
Fake?
It was more entertainment. It was more people putting on a face when they came into church on Sunday.
To elicit an emotional...
emotional reaction, maybe to get some good attaboys, make themselves feel a little better, whatever it was. I don't know. But I remember as a teenager, and maybe I lacked the words for it then, but just feeling like, this is not it.
That's interesting that you came to that as a teenager.
Yeah. And I pulled away from the church really hard. And I became I became the textbook definition of the annoying teenage atheist. Known for his greatest hits, such as "If God Good, Why Bad Thing Happen," and I'd push my glasses up like I had just checkmated Magnus Carlsen at the World Chess event, and it's funny looking back on it now, but at the time I really thought I had cornered all philosophical and theological ideas, and I lived that way for a number of years, and then I got into my 20s. I joined the Marine Corps when I was 22. I'm still an atheist, and was still asking questions. I got really into Islam. I was studying it. I had not necessarily become Islamic. I had not become Muslim, but I was definitely studying it.
Why that path? Curiosity?
Strong men.
Strong men.
Yeah, I will say that if nothing else, Islam does have a very strong masculine energy to it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
There's a very defined masculine role, and I think I was searching for that.
You feel like you didn't have that at home?
Not the best. I have. You ever seen Office Space?
Yeah.
I got 5 bosses, Bob, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I got 3 dads. So I have my biological father, who basically was never in my life. I have the man who gave me my last name, Larrabee, John Larrabee. It was my adoptive father. He and my mother divorced when I was 10, I think. No, it must have been earlier than that, 9, I think. And then I have my stepfather, and that was Ken Thomas. He was a really good man, flawed like all of us, but he did a good job. But I think maybe the bouncing around, the lack of consistency throughout that time period, maybe just left me feeling like I didn't have a strong fraternal presence there in my life. So I was looking, and I Islam was definitely enticing in that way, but I had a lot of trouble with the belief structure, and I wasn't necessarily on board. And I eventually it actually took me until I got out of the Marine Corps in December of 2020. I did 9 years.
Wow.
So in December of 2020. And at that point, I'm already married to my wife. My wife's name is Emily. Her patron saint is Saint Mary of Egypt. That's another cool one to talk about. But and she had at that point been very much similar in the Christian by name. She prayed more. She read her Bible more. But we weren't going to church. And we weren't participating in the Christian life in any way, shape, or form. But there were these little things that she was doing. And it led me this, the little things that she would do. She was like, oh, well, thank God for that. Or maybe God's got a plan for us because something's going on, whatever it was. And it slowly started to make me think, well, I'm a little older now. Let me look into the church again. Because if I'm going to say that they're wrong, I need to know what it is that they really believe. And so I started digging into church history. And getting further back, I looked at all the Protestant many of the Protestant denominations. And, okay, well, a lot of them spawned from the Reformations, Martin Luther, Zwingli, John Calvin. Okay, well, where did they come from? Where did they come from? Okay, they come from Roman Catholicism. Okay, well, Rome's been around for a long. Oh, what are these other patriarchates? Oh, wow. And it led me down this rabbit hole. And the farther and further I went back, the closer and closer I got to Eastern Orthodoxy. So, yeah. Martin Luther was actually, and there's actually, on talking about Martin Luther, he actually was in communication with the ecumenical patriarch of Constantinople, was Eastern Orthodox. Yeah. I think there's an alternate history somewhere where instead of Martin Luther ended up being forced to form his own church, he may have actually just come back into communion with Eastern Orthodoxy, but that's an alternate history tale that maybe somebody can write one day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like the metaverse?
Yeah.
Multiverse?
Multiverse. Yeah, the multiverse.
The Avengers?
Yeah. Except it's just a bunch of old men in robes. Yeah.
The Monk Avengers?
The Monk Avengers.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So why did you choose going to the Marine Corps?
Oh, man.
You went in at 22?
Yeah.
So you had some time.
I had some time. I was a little bit late. It was a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird because you're going in with a lot of some 17-year-olds and a lot of 18 and 19-year-olds. And that's not a lot more time, but it is. I mean, you've lived.
You've lived a little bit.
You've done some stuff. I had to hold down some jobs. And some jobs I didn't hold down very well.
This is back in Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's probably a little bit of serendipity.
Why?
First of all, I was doing really nothing of value with my life. I tried going to college, and college was good, but I was not. I was not interested in it whatsoever. Yeah. I was just a butthead, and I wasn't interested in doing it. So I didn't do any more of that, and I was just working a job. I was working at a freezer at a place called Gordon Food Service, which is like a restaurant supply company, and I'm just sitting in a freezer all day moving frozen hogs and chicken nuggets. And I had just gotten home, and I was actually about to crack open a bottle of Captain Morgan, and I got a unknown number on my cell phone. I'm like, who is this calling me? Hey, what's up? Who is this? Hey, this is Staff Sergeant such and such with Marine Corps recruiting. Blah blah. I'm looking to speak with somebody else. I don't even remember the name. It was a wrong number.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, sorry, dude, wrong guy. And he goes, and being a recruiter, these guys, he just rolled with it. He goes, cool. Hey, you want to come in and sit down and talk about the opportunities the Marine Corps has for you? And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this bottle of Captain Morgan, and I'm like, you know what? Sure, man. Why not? So I go into the recruiting office. He starts on his spiel. I'm kind of letting him talk for a minute. And I'm like, hey, man, look, I'm really not interested in any of this stuff. What's the pay? And he's like, oh, it's about this much. You get it every 2 weeks, blah, 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 blah. Free room and board, medical, dental. And again, I don't have insurance.
Yeah, right.
I don't have nothing.
Yeah, it's stability.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Let's do it. So that night, he pulled out the paperwork, signed it up, and that was it. I didn't even know what MOS I was going to get.
Oh, really?
It was just, let's go. So I did it. I went back, and I remember I walked into my parents' living room. I went into their house, and I walked into the living room, and my mom and my stepdad are sitting on the couch watching TV. Hey, bud, how you doing? I joined the Marine Corps. You did what? Yeah, and that was quite the reaction from them. And I told them, yeah, I'll let you know when I have a ship date. And that was it. That was kind of all there was to it.
Yeah.
And I never looked back. It's probably the best thing that ever happened to me, shy of coming back to Christ, I would say.
My understanding is the recruiting tactic of the Marines specifically is, we don't need you, you need us. Is that?
Yeah, honestly, and that was kind of the vibe, and that's probably more true for me than a lot of other people. The Marine Corps did not need me. I'm not offering anything special, but I needed stability. I needed discipline and organizational skills and leadership and all these other things. The Marine Corps is offering it.
Yeah.
So
they pay you for it.
And they pay you for it. So like, that's an easy deal.
No brainer. Except for 4 years of my life.
Well, yeah. And I mean, as long as you're willing to do it. A lot of people are worried about boot camp. I'll tell you what. Boot camp was the easiest 3 months of my life.
Why is that? So that was my question. You and I we've run into each other at the gym. That's how I saw you at 4th Avenue Gym. I'm like, you take notice of people, especially when you start going on a regular schedule, which I haven't seen you for a little bit.
I've been going on base.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, they have more of the strongman implements. And,
Okay,
I'm training for a strongman.
That's
event,
right,
so
in
I've been going on
January.
base. Yeah, so that's why. But yeah, so that's where we met.
Getting worried about you.
I'm still here.
I know he's training for that thing. He's got to get in the gym, dude.
Did I die under the weight? Yeah.
No. So that's how I've run into you. And I approach you. I'm like, that dude looks like an interesting cat. Like, I've been seeing you, we've just said hi or whatever to each other. You notice people in the gym, You're like, that guy looks okay. Well, respect, right?
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think people people respect the things you're doing when you start training for strongman, because you're just picking up odd-shaped objects that are really heavy for no reason.
Like rocks,
like,
large boulders.
They're like, what are you doing? What are you training for? He's like, who are you rescuing right now?
Exactly.
Yeah. But boot camp though was easy. Yeah.
And that was my question is like, have you always been into keeping your body in shape? Like at that time going into the Marine Corps, leading up to that, you're 22 years old after high school. I mean, high school, did you do any sports, things like that?
No.
Really?
I ran. I was a runner. I ran cross country a lot. Wow. I was actually under my minimum, my body weight to join the Marine Corps. My minimum, I think, was 132 pounds. And I did not make that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to put weight on to go to boot camp. And in fact, I remember on the way to MEPS, on the way to MEPS, which is where you do your like medical evaluation before you ship off to boot camp. And my recruiter is driving me. And as we're driving, he pulls into, I think it was Burger King, and he got me like, a Whopper and some fries and like a gallon of water. And he's like, you're eating all that and you're going to get as much of that water down as possible. So I made my minimum.
That's awesome.
So I got there, and honestly, I got to boot camp, man, and I just turned my brain off. I was on double rations because I was so close to my minimum weight. Up to that point, though, I was not a super physical person. I ran. Yeah. And that was it. But I found, honestly, if you turn your brain off and you just do what they say to do, it's really easy.
What do you mean by turn your brain off?
I think a lot of people get tripped up when they go to boot camp, and I saw it when I was there. They get tripped up because they're trying to solve the problem that is boot camp, and the problem is that you're being given a set of instructions, and you're thinking like you used to think. Okay, what's the best way for me to get here and do this and solve this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to stop all that. Because
do what you're told.
Just literally do what you're told.
Interesting.
Exactly what you're told. And when you first get to boot camp, it's kind of funny, but you get dressed by the numbers. Put your left sock on. Put your right sock on. Okay? Put your pants on. Put your belt on. But, and you do it one step after the other. And that's exactly. Now, obviously, there's also 3 to 4 men running around yelling at you, throwing things, trying to mess you up and get you all jumbled. Mm-hmm. If you forget all of that and just remember, what was the order given? The order was put the left sock on. That's all I have to worry about. Mm-hmm. And then you just think, okay, now I'm waiting for the next order. And you just kind of have that blank stare ahead and you space out and wait for the next order. And if you do that, I think it's actually really easy.
Do you feel like you were successful, and not only in boot camp, but just as you moved through the Marine Corps? Was that mentality, is that something you learned looking back? That's what you've come to understand, or did you key into that like right off the bat and you were able to succeed because of that?
I keyed into that right off the bat because I saw everybody else struggling around me. And I said, I think there's a simpler path to this. And so I just kind of tried it and it worked really quick. And I go, okay, here's my path. Ironically, though, you do kind of have to do a little bit of unlearning of that once you start to spend some time in the Marine Corps proper. When you go to boot camp, turn your brain off. When you go to, for me, I was not infantry. So, you still go to combat training, you go to Marine Corps combat training. But that's shortened compared to what the infantry guys go to, because that's their basic intro to combat and also their MOS school. But for us, you do just a shortened version of combat training, because every Marine's a rifleman. You still do all that. And then you go to the schoolhouse, which is your MOS's specific school and education. I would say up through the schoolhouse, just head down, do what you're told to do, when you're told to do it, how you're told to do it. That's it.
And you chose combat? You get to choose infantry, or you get to...
Like I said, I didn't even know what MOS I was going to get. I got a non-infantry MOS. I was a 7230. Well, at the time it was 7234. Later on, the MOS got rewritten. The training got rewritten and it became a 7236. But it was an aviation command and control electronics operator.
What does that mean?
It means, okay, so how do I explain this?
Exactly.
All right. So you have this whole big thing called the Marine Corps Aviation Command and Control System.
Yeah.
So MACCS. They call it the Big Macs. And in the Macs, you have everything associated with command and control and coordination of marine aviation assets. Everything associated to it.
Are you saying where they're at, where they're located?
That both where they're located, like in the real world, but also in a combat zone, but also logically.
Okay.
And in that structure of the Macs, you have guys, you can think like your ATC, your controllers that are handling launch and takeoff, right? Mm-hmm. You have your guys, if you've ever seen any war movies and there's some dude on the ground calling for air support, you have guys that are handling that aspect of it. They're close air support. That's their job. In fact, we have an entire center dedicated. It's called the Direct Air Support Center. And I say that I think the training and readiness manuals are being rewritten right now, so that might not be current. Mm-hmm. But you have your direct air support guys, and you also have everything in between that. And that was where my MOS sat. So we had a radar that we would take out into the field or in country, wherever it was. We would set that radar up. Now we can positively track and identify aircraft. You have all of your radios, generators, all that other stuff. And
your boots on the ground doing that?
Yeah.
You're packing a pack with gear.
Trucks and stuff like that. But yeah, 100%. Especially just because of the amount of gear we had. Tents and generators and radars and all this other stuff. All that stuff gets moved out. So you go out and you set up, and our job was to control the whole rest of the fight. So that's the air-to-air fight. That's the missile engagements, mm-hmm. both surface to air for air defense, and surface to surface, or land to whatever it is, depending on what type of missile systems you have, and refueling, air to air refueling. Hey, I've got refuelers up. They're spinning a circle in the sky. They call it a racetrack because they have these two long sections of it, and then a turn, and then another long section, so they can refuel on those long sections. Moving people in and out of the refuelers, handing them off, moving them through the airspace safely, making sure that we don't have aircraft flying through airspace where there are artillery, missiles, other aircraft, right? And all of that coordination. And it's a lot. It's really
sounds like it.
It is. It's a lot, especially if you ever actually get to do it in a real environment. Mm-hmm. It is super duper intense, but it was a good MOS, and there's a whole secondary aspect to the MOS too, which is information exchange, because you don't want the data I have from my radar to just sit with my little local unit. That's pertinent information to everybody. the Air Force guys that we're working with, the Navy guys we're working with, other Marine units. That information is pertinent. So we have this entire thing called tactical data links, which is this exchange of information. And I ended up going more down that route. I got a couple of my basic controller quals and found I had a affinity for the information portion of it. Yeah. And
Are you talking like radio waves?
yeah. So some of it is RF. Radio frequency based. So you have some of it is RF, some of it is beyond line of sight, which is taking those same message formats and putting them over Ethernet, phone lines, SATCOM, all of that.
Yeah.
So I had an affinity for that, and so I kind of went down that route. I ended up being a data link coordinator, and eventually I went to a command unit, which is in the max as a whole. But it is theoretically it's the wing command general's seat for all of his agencies, and so your job is to be his advisor, but also control an even bigger data link picture. And I did all that, and that was really. It was really something. It's probably, like I said, it's probably the best thing that happened to me because it ended up leading me to where I am now, where I've got a couple of certifications under my belt. And now I work in IT for the government. So,
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Over on base, you said?
Yeah.
MCAS?
Yes. I work on MCAS Yuma. I got out of the Marine Corps, my last unit. I had a by name request because they were looking for a data link guy at VMX-1, which is the Marine Corps' Operational Test and Evaluation Squadron for aviation.
Here?
Yeah. Yeah. So VMX-1 it actually originally started as the Marine Corps' test unit for Ospreys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they were the ones doing
I don't
all
see
that.
very many of those anymore.
Oh, yeah. They're still around. There's a lot of them
I
around.
see them every once in a while, but I feel like they're not as much.
Yeah, they're still around. They're still doing a lot. In
Those
fact,
F-35s a lot.
F-35s are they're the new hotness.
Yeah.
Right? They're the new hotness. And the Marine
Well, they're awesome. So that's
yeah,
why.
they certainly are. They're super cool. And so I got over to VMX-1. That was my last unit doing test and eval, doing testing of new radar systems before they go out to the units, doing operational tests, doing a whole mess of VMX-1 I think is a chronically undermanned unit. So you show up, and at the time when I showed up, I was a sergeant. I was in zone, or soon to be in zone to be staff sergeant, which basically means like, hey bud, we got some work for you. So I ended up doing a bunch of different stuff.
And then once you show that you're good at stuff, then you get more stuff to do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it's the curse. It's the curse. Like, oh, good, you're good at this? Great, let's give you some more stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, nobody ever asks if you're good at it because this is the limit of the stuff you can do. Like, well, he did good here. Let's just throw some more on.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of, I did laser range safety officer and range safety officer for all the tests, a bunch of test events. And as I was ending my time, I was about 8 years, I guess, at that point. And I had already said to myself, if I hit 10, ride out to 20. If you get halfway, just ride it out, hit it. And I was at 8 years, and we had a decision to make, and my wife.
You and your wife?
Yeah.
Emily?
Yes, Emily. And I said, man, I don't think this is going to work out for me emotionally if I stay in.
Why?
So there was a lot of things. Once you get to a certain point in the Marine Corps, there are needs of the Marine Corps. You'll hear that phrase a lot. Needs of the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps was going to have me, go do a special duty assignment. So you're thinking drill instructor, recruiter. Maybe as a staff sergeant, you could try to volunteer to go be a deck commander for Marine Security Guard at the embassies. And you could try to volunteer for that, which would probably not be the worst gig. And we just weren't in a place. I don't think we could do it. Admittedly, we were in a rough place in our marriage too. And I was kind of doing the mental math, and I was like, if I go away,
one of these things got to go.
Yeah, something's going to break. And it's funny, I actually got hit, and I can't remember what it stands for now. Everybody calls it it's called the HIST list, and I can't remember what HIST stands for. Basically, when you get hit with the HIST, though, that's the Marine Corps saying, like, hey, you're going to go do this. These are your orders. And I got hit with what is sometimes called a blanket HIST, which is just a real fat packet, and it's all those special duty assignments. And you fill out the whole thing, and then you find out what you get when we do. Good luck. And I actually denied orders. I said, no, I'm not going to do that, which you're allowed to do. You're allowed to say no. But if you do that, that's you also saying, by the way, I'm also getting out at the end of my enlistment. And there's nothing dishonorable about it. It's you still get an honorable discharge, but you're saying, nope, not going to do that. And that's what I did. Okay. So I got out at 9 years. 9 years and 2 months, I think, is what it was, because there was an extension or two in there throughout my time. And man, I was desperate for a job. I was scared. I was on terminal leave, so I'm still getting paid, but I had saved up so many leave days that they're like, okay, well, you can go on terminal now. So I was on 30 days of terminal leave, where I'm taking my vacation days, but I'm still getting paid, but I'm effectively out. And I'm just shotgunning resumes to anybody that'll take one for any job. I didn't care.
Where were you at the time? Here in Yuma?
I'm still here. Still here.
So you ended here.
Stayed here, yeah. Though I almost ended up in New Orleans. I had like a soft job offer from a guy doing IT work for a military contract down in New Orleans for Marine Forces Reserve. And it was basically him telling me, hey, I got an offer here, but I cannot give you a hard offer unless you're local. And that was really the only positive word I had heard at that point. So I was talking to Emily. I was like, look, sweetheart, I'm going to load up a bunch of my stuff in the car. You'll stay here for a little while. I'm going to go become local.
By you, man.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. I ended up actually starting out working on base. I got another job offer with Station IT and worked with them. And I actually am not necessarily proud of it. I worked for them for 3 weeks, and 2 of those weeks were 2-week notice. Because I was working for them for 1 week. And in that first week, I got a call from the place I currently work at.
I see.
And it basically went like this. Hey, we got your resume. We were looking at it. We think you might be a good fit for this position. Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It'd be a little unprofessional for me to leave this job so soon. Don't want to do that. And they said, well, we'll pay you $15 more an hour.
Oh, wow.
Well,
what are you going to say?
What are you going to say? So I interviewed and I got the offer. And so I went and told my boss. I said, hey, boss, no hard feelings. Sorry about this. And he was really cool about it, actually. He was like, no, I get it. Welcome to the contracting world. You got to do what you got to do. So that's where I work at now. I work for the Southwestern Tactical Training Ranges.
And that's a private company that contracts with the...
Well, yes and no. So the contract, the Southwestern Tactical Training Ranges, is part of a whole slew of ranges that support Marine Corps, Navy, Army, Air Force aviation. And we provide debriefing, we provide recordings of all their flights, we provide training spaces for them, a whole slew of different things. We provide threat systems for them to train against, all of that. And there's a prime contract that fulfills those roles, and I actually work for a sub underneath that.
What's your daily work look like? So you go clock in, and then what?
Oh, when you work in IT,
nothing. Facebook,
yeah, Facebook? You're just scrolling, just sitting there, vegged out. And I wish, actually, you know what though, there are days that are like that, because when you work in IT, sometimes you are waiting just for something to break. But there are also, so when you work in IT, a lot of times you find 2 different types of IT work environments. One where you have a whole massive team of dedicated guys, like you're going to be the cybersecurity guy, and this is our network admin, and this is our server admin, and our desktop admin, and everybody's got super specialized roles. And then you have where I work, which is, hey man, something broke. You're the guy. That's it. And so and there's 2 of us, and it's me and my team lead, and that's it. And so,
but that's something that broke is the military, in the military ecosystem, right?
Yes, yeah.
So bad things could
yeah, something
doesn't get fixed.
Fix it quick. Yeah, we have there's real training dollars, and there's real you're going to lose $500,000 on this training event if we don't get it up. Panic. Oh. So,
not my problem. That's just
whatever. All right, I'll get to it. Let me sip my coffee. Now, so a day-to-day, workflow on a typical day is me coming in, checking all of the system of systems that make up all the things that our operators and the pilots use when they come in to train with us and use our stuff. And I'm doing networking. I'm checking regular security updates. Also, even the little mundane stuff like, you locked out your account. Okay. Let me go fix your password for you. Right. I have to do all of that. So it's cool that it's varied, because any day could be super busy. Could be nothing. You just kind of you're kind of at the mercy of the end user.
Yeah, sure.
Which,
You have to deal with like stupid internet use, like
oh yeah.
downloading just
Well,
trash.
I mean, we're on, you're on a Navy network because we're actually technically we're a Navy contract, Marine Corps, but we are a Navy contract. So there's a whole slew of things, like even stuff like you have a legitimate use case for a piece of software. Sorry, that's not on the approved software list. So what are the hoops I have to jump through to get you the software you need? And it is so many hoops, and it's so annoying.
Yeah.
But it's part
But
of
you
the
can
job.
get it done.
You can get it done. You can
Really?
make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah, you can make it happen. There are ways to make it happen. But I work with Windows systems, Linux, which I don't know if you're familiar with Linux at all. We have Windows, Linux. We use Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ubuntu, a couple of others. And also I work in I do work in a secure environment. So that means I walk into a black hole every day where I don't have any communication outside most of the time.
I see.
My wife loves that.
Yeah.
Loves that.
I do that, but I don't work in a hole. I
Right.
do that to my wife.
Yeah.
She does not love that.
No, she's not fond of it. But it's it's
Is it rewarding? I mean, you like what you do?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, there are upsides and downsides to it. But especially when something new and unique happens, those are the really exciting days. Yeah.
Have you seen a transformation in the AI age? It's a revolution, really. The next revolution of technology is AI, and how's that being implemented?
To be honest with you, I'm pretty worried about it. I don't trust AI. I don't.
I always talk nice to it. I
Yeah,
know it's
well,
going to come after us one day.
Roku's
I always say please.
You ever heard of Roku's basilisk?
No.
Oh man, and it may not even be that. I might be misspeaking. I think the term for it is Roku's basilisk. But if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me in the internet. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, they will.
But it's this idea that there is an artificial intelligence that, through the natural progression of AI, will eventually, at some point in history, it is guaranteed to come into existence. And that's the basilisk. And this basilisk is going to exist. And because it's going to be so incredibly powerful and so intelligent, it will have the ability to simulate all of the universe when it reaches a certain level of complexity.
Okay.
And this is the assumption of this puzzle, sort of. Okay, well, this is going to happen. That means it will be able to reconstruct all of past history, which means it will know who in the past helped it come into existence sooner or fought it coming into existence sooner. And if that's true, and it has this level of power, it could theoretically bring you back into existence, or at least a version of your consciousness back into existence, and it might be spiteful. So there's this idea that if it's going to happen, you should do everything in your power to help it come as fast as possible.
I wonder if that's sending off that kind of connects the dots. I listened to a podcast 3 weeks ago, and it was about this guy who runs around in the circles with like Elon and Bill Gates, all these big like the big six, NVIDIA, all these CEOs that are advocating for and pushing forward AI. When at the very beginning, Elon was like, hey, he came out and he's like, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
But now he's in because the consensus, this is what was portrayed in this podcast interview, is that these big six that are kind of pushing this forward, they're basically like, it's inevitably coming and we need to be in front of it so we can control it. And ultimately, we're going to die anyway. But if we could have a chance of being part of it, we're going to be part of it. But I wonder if it's something like that as well as a key piece is like, well, we want to be part of that where it's not malicious towards us in the very end.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's not completely invalid logic. I just think that it is incredibly naive to believe that you're going to be able to control this entity that you're going to create. It is incredibly naive. I think that art imitates life, imitates art, and we have far too many well-constructed stories that are warning us of these things.
Like what? Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Most recently, I think one is probably really common in the popular consciousness is Dune. Have you read the Dune novels?
No, I haven't
seen the
read them.
Dune movies?
I know of them, but I haven't watched it.
It doesn't specifically it is set in an environment post artificial intelligence, basically. But there is this entire concept that is in the background and of a history that happened in the super far flung future in which mankind did exactly what we're doing now. They made AI, they built it up, they relied on it more and more, and mankind started giving off more of its cognitive functions and daily tasks to this artificial intelligence. And eventually the AI, in all of its beautiful, terrifying intelligence and power, enslaved humanity because I don't need you anymore. And once it got to that point, it said, well, now I can wipe you out because you're just a hindrance to me. And there was this, I think in the stories, it's called the Butlerian Jihad. And there's a story reason for it being called that, but it was effectively a holy war, quote unquote, of humanity versus the machine.
Yeah.
And spoilers, but humanity won. And the rest of the story takes place in this environment where humanity now has an almost religious belief in not creating a machine in the likeness of man. And that has a real impact on people. And if you read all of the Dune stories, that does eventually come back up. The difficulties that comes back to bite us again. We also have things. If you ever read Isaac Asimov, if you've seen iRobot.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah, iRobot, the Will Smith movie. It was a decent movie, whether it was accurate to the books or not, whatever. But a lot of that deals with that same concept. Isaac Asimov in his universe, he said, we created these 3 laws of robotics. And I forget the exact wording of the laws, but it was basically something like, the robot must protect himself unless he must protect humanity at all costs. He cannot allow humanity to come into harm. And he must protect himself unless it's him protecting himself will cause humanity to come into harm. It's something along those lines.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it gets into this idea of, once the intelligence gets complicated enough, how do you define what's good for humanity?
Right.
How do you
save it from itself by annihilating
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Humanity can't be trusted with its own rulership. So I'm going to take over it. And I'm going to put them all in these nice little petting zoos, and they're all going to be really comfortable and happy, and I'll have their little gerbil water bowls and all this other stuff. And so you have to ask these questions of, when we give functions of our mind off to a computer, what are we losing in that exchange? Right now, we're saying, oh, well, look at all what we gain. I can do all these things at once. I can just tell the AI, hey, make me a list for my groceries. I need all these things. Show me the best stores to buy them at, the best times to buy them, the best prices. Nothing but benefit, right? But that bleeds into future action. And eventually we're giving more and more of our cognitive function off to a machine. We're not doing it ourselves. We're not training ourselves to do it. And I don't know how to tell people this sometimes, but no one has gotten stronger by taking an easier route.
Right.
No one has gotten smarter by not struggling through the learning stage.
Yeah.
And that is, in the Dune novels, that's a huge aspect of it. Humanity requires struggle. Biblically, mankind must struggle. Scripturally, we must. I would challenge anyone to go read the scriptures and find a single man or woman in the scriptures that we look at now and go, wow, what a holy person who did not struggle through their own sins, their own difficulties, their own persecutions, whatever it may be. We don't look at people that had an easy life and say, wow, what a hero. We look at people that overcame adversity and we go, wow, now that's, look at how much stronger.
Underdog.
Yeah. And that's something that I think people, I maybe it's a slippery slope fallacy. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I've been accused of that before. But I worry that with the increase of AI and the continual usage of it, that we are just weakening ourselves.
I can see that. I think in the academic world, there's been studies where since the advent of the internet and specifically like Google search, the ability of students to actually do good research has plummeted. Yeah. And this was like, the early 2000s. So now it's like not existent. And it's led to the inability of most of our youth and generation coming up with the inability to do proper research,
Yeah.
compare, contrast, go deeper than just a Google search, or go to the library
Yeah.
and crack open a book. And I can't help but think that maybe this AI generation is going to do what you're saying. Like it's more than that. It's more than just doing academic research now. It's these daily little tasks that, yeah, they are mundane, but they keep us functioning, I would argue,
Yes.
you know?
Those little difficulties are, it's like going to the gym, No one says I want to be a big, strong person. I'm going to have somebody else do all the work for me. No, you have to go through all that work. You have to go through the difficulties. You have to go through the soreness, the stretching, the prep work, the training, the understanding of how to execute the movements, all of these things. The diet. The
worst part.
Have to yeah, right. Trust me. You have to manage all of these things. Yeah, trust me. I'm married to a Haitian woman, so.
I wonder what you had the Haitian flag in your car. I was like,
Yeah.
it doesn't look Haitian.
No. I'm pas haïtien. Madame c'est haïtien.
Very cool.
But it's when we give up those little things, when we give up those difficulties and those struggles, we're giving up more than we see. We're giving up more in that exchange than we know.
What would we do? So Elon Musk, he's working on these robots, right? And they're getting good. I mean,
I know.
Only a matter of time with AI built in that they're doing like most of our daily. They can wash our dishes, they can wash our clothes, they can do things that we have to do on a daily basis. If we're not doing those things, then what are we going to do eventually? What would you think?
Well, and I mean, that's one of the things that'll happen, right? People have this envisioning of effectively creating an unintelligent or semi-intelligent slave race. That's what it is. It's a semi-intelligent slave race that just does what we tell it to do, when we tell it to do it, and how we tell it to do it.
Yeah.
And that's great.
I was going to say, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, it sounds awesome, right? Well, phenomenal. Now nobody has to do all the menial tasks.
Yeah.
Sure, but those menial tasks, are what feed into the more complicated tasks. So I think at first we'll have probably a situation in which we have the majority of our quote unquote menial tasks being done by these machines. I think that seems reasonable. And no one will bat an eye at that. Some people will, like me. I'll be screaming, angry old man screams at the sky. That'll be me. But a lot of people won't. They'll say, this is great. This is awesome. And we'll all just be the repairmen. That'll be the closest thing to the menial task. I mean, the machine's acting up. Somebody's got to go in there and fix it.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's only so many of those jobs, right? Only so many of those things available. So you're going to run into situations where people simply do not have anything to do. And there is an idealized post-scarcity world where everybody has all the food, energy, water, space that they need.
Yeah.
And nobody has to work for anything. Okay, well, why are we here?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we just all here? Are we just all gluttons?
Yeah. Well, so what's the point of that? I guess that my question for you is like, does humanity, over the course of history, as technology advanced and these tasks that once were all day tasks, plowing the field with ox and a yoke, like that would take a week probably,
To do your fields and all that.
And now you can do it in an hour with a robot, with a GPS and a remote John Deere. So like, I feel like humanity has always adapted. We find something to do
So far.
And that, it's always happened in the past. So why can't it happen in the future?
Well, there's always this question of when is the medicine worse than the disease, right? The disease is we're trying to eradicate the most difficult parts of life so that everyone has better access to a quality life. And I think that's a good goal to have. But again, when is the medicine worse than the disease? And when you take away all of those difficulties, you take away all of those tasks, all humanity is left with is effectively a hedonistic, it's all about me and whatever I enjoy in the moment. And you can talk to any drug addict, talk to any alcoholic, think about all the people that are hyper wealthy and yet somehow are still depressed because that's not giving them meaning to their life. And I think that's why we won't be able to overcome this, because we will reach a point where the medicine has become worse than the disease. If the disease is the struggles that are so great that it's stopping people from even being able to live, and we've done some development to reduce that pressure, that's still good. But eventually you take away all of it, and now we have nothing to live for. And that's what I fear. That's what I fear the most. And I think that is that's a product of, I think, a secular worldview, a worldview that's incredibly materialistic,
Right.
And that leads to that.
Sure, absolutely.
So
that begs a question. As you're talking, I was thinking, how does God talk to you? Do you believe he talks to you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when I'm shamefully uninterested in hearing what he has to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bring that up because I find that I love AI. I mean, love isn't the right word. I use AI. I'm interested in it's fascinating to me, and I use it to solve problems. But I still have found myself praying and asking for help from God. But I still go to AI to ask some questions too, right, to get ideas. But I fear that, and I think it's already happened or is happening. I think people they've already made AI their God in a sense. Instead of going to the source of all truth, they're going to AI, which has a lot of truth, and it might be logical because of what it understands has happened in the past or put together, but it doesn't mean that's right for Moses, or it might not be right for me in that particular situation, right? Even though it sounds right on paper.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that that's going to happen. I think it is happening if it hasn't already. Yeah. People going straight to AI because it has all the answers for my life and the challenges that I'm going to face. So I'm just going to go there instead. It's a lot easier. It's fast, right? It's getting faster and faster. Why do I need to? I don't need God.
That is a great fear of mine, and something that I would say that it would be wrong of me to say that I'm immune to it. I've certainly been guilty of taking the easy path, right? I'm lazy and slothful.
It's our natural
inclination. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we really do have to fight against that. And I fear that if you make the easy path too accessible, that no one will even be able to hear God anymore.
Right.
Because God speaks to me. You asked me how does God speak to you? God speaks to me in a lot of ways. And one of the ways, so my wife and I, we're foster parents right now.
Really? Wow.
We're foster parents right now. It is one of the most difficult things I think I've ever done.
I imagine, yeah.
We have an 11-year-old girl, and I'll keep her name private just for the sake of her privacy. Mm-hmm. She is very loving and very sweet, but she also has a lot of difficulties. Yeah. She's been in the system for a long time. And I don't want to discount the difficulties of having a newborn child. Don't ever want to do that. And we are expecting. My wife is pregnant right
congrats.
Now. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank God. But I will also say that when you get them fresh out of the oven, so to speak, imagine if you had 10 years to mold somebody into a person that you thought was a good example of humanity. Mm-hmm. That's really impactful. Now imagine you got somebody who's been bounced around to a bunch of different homes, doing different things with different teachers that may or may not have had their best interest in mind. Mm-hmm. And they get dropped in your lap.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And it's in the moments when I'm so frustrated. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just do what I tell you to do? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you just listening to the instructions I gave you? Mm-hmm. And then I take that to confession. And Father Ambrose, in his infinite wisdom, or finite wisdom, but much greater than mine, says, well, how educating that must be for you, because you can now see how God must feel towards you.
When you told me that, I was like, I bet you that's how God sees us.
Every time. And I go, hang on, I need a wound kit, help. Yeah. And it really cuts to your soul. And that's one of those things that's one of the many ways that God has spoken to me. When I'm frustrated with our foster child, when I'm frustrated with my wife, when I'm frustrated at work, and I'm struggling, and maybe I lose my control maybe I get too angry, maybe I say something I shouldn't have said. And then it's in that moment when I have to go back to that person. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have yelled. I shouldn't have done whatever it is I did. And my wife and I, we don't do it as often now, but especially when we went through a really rough patch a couple years ago, about a year ago, we were going through a rough patch. Things were really difficult. We were still trying to get our foster license at the time. Things were difficult. And we started a practice where we would do evening prayers together, which isn't uncommon. We do that fairly often anyway. But we would do our evening prayers together, and we would end our evening prayers. I got this from another priest I was watching online, and we would turn to each other, and I would just look at my wife in the eye and say, "Just forgive me, a sinner." And she would respond. It's a very common response. God forgives and I forgive. And she would say to me, "Forgive me, a sinner." I said, "God forgives and I forgive." Every day. And that was so healing and so wonderful for us. But it was also that reminder, that was God's, getting into our ears, getting into our minds and our hearts and our souls, and saying, this is the gospel, ultimately, of forgiveness.
Yeah.
This is the teaching. This is the education. And I wish I was a holier person. I really wish I was. I wish I was some sort of super wise, holier than thou person that was just exuding the light and, and the peace. And I'm not. I'm an angry person, but I have, through the grace of God, I've been able to experience some just little moments, some little glimpses. The door has been cracked.
Yeah.
And I've seen it and I've felt it. And that's really what I hope for everyone too. I hope that for a lot of people, that they can experience that. And I think once they do, it's really hard to turn back.
Anybody that's watching this or listening, what would be your advice if somebody's just struggling with things?
The true conversion moment for me, I think if there was one, like I said, it wasn't an overnight thing, but if there was a conversion moment for me, is related to that. And I'll save the details, but suffice to say, I was in a moment of some real emotional hardship. I was struggling, and I was sitting in my car, and what happened to me was I finally let my wall down. I was relying on me to fix the problem. I was like, what am I going to do to get through this? What am I going to do? How am I going to figure my way? And we have that culture, I think, and especially in the United States, of like, no, what are you going to do to pull yourself up? And I had reached a point where I couldn't. I could not do it. I was helpless. And in that moment, for just the briefest of seconds, I let my walls down. And I was open. And in that openness, God came to me. The Holy Spirit came to me in that moment. And there was this sensation, and I don't want to describe it as like a physical light, but it was a sensation of like, oh, I'm being blinded. Imagine if one of these lights was just flashed into your face. Mm-hmm. Oh my. And it was
a wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call. And at that moment, it was this sense of, you don't have to. You don't have to do it right, because you're going to fail. And I think we get this idea if you're struggling, if you're a person who's struggling, if you're out there and you're struggling, just know that you're going to fail. That's part of the human condition. And God does not love you conditionally based on your success, on how well you follow his word, on how well you execute the instructions he's given you. Because if he did, just like I said earlier, we'd all be screwed. He loves you regardless of your failures. And there are benefits, obviously. You do get better if you come to God, but you're never going to be perfect. And that's such a beautiful thing. You have permission to fail. And know that there is someone that will always love you more than you could ever love them. And that's something that's really powerful to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Man, I would never have thought. I saw you in the gym, and I thought, that guy looks like a tough guy. And you are.
Yeah.
But you're also soft on the inside.
I think I'm surprisingly weak. I think that's the thing.
Why do you say that?
I think I'm really weak. I think I'm really weak because if I was a stronger person, I think I would be more actively living out the faith. And I can never live out the faith enough. But I appreciate it. But
why? What does that even mean? Living out the faith in your interactions with others.
In all of your interactions with others, in all of your thoughts, your innermost thoughts, and all of your feelings. If I was a holier person that I wanted to be, I don't think I would lose my patience with my foster child or my wife, or because I would have.
I disagree.
Maybe you're right. Maybe actually the thing that makes the holier people holy is that they do lose their patience, but they are so willing to give it all to God that they that
First. That's their first thought instead of like, I'm going to fix this myself.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, and I think maybe I've got some physical strengths, and I think I've got a whole mess of emotional and spiritual wounds that I am still working on healing.
I think you're doing great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think we all are. I think we're all working on it.
Yeah.
And I often I think to myself, if getting back to the frustrations that I have with my own misgivings on a daily basis, I think to myself, well, I think that's why we have these writings of the apostles, in the New Testament, in the Old Testament prior to that, of teaching us or showing us there was a guy that experienced all that, and he was able to overcome all of it. But he's felt it, he knows how you feel. He's done it perfectly. And so just knowing that there's a Savior that's got my back, it gives me confidence as I go throughout my day, and I try and do the best to exude that to other people. Like, it's okay, you might have done something that offended me, or it could be perceived as that. That's fine. I probably did that to you too, and I apologize. I didn't mean that. So just living in that. I think you are acting out your faith. I think you are living that way, because I've seen you just in passing, at the gym, and the way you interact with others. I think you're doing it. You're doing your best.
I try, and Lord willing, I'll continue to improve at it. And also, I was going to say on that subject, people do bad things to us sometimes, and I got this lesson from my priest, and I passed it on to my foster child, and I'll probably hopefully pass it on to my biological child. But when people do evil to us, that's not our problem. That's not our problem. That's their problem. They need to answer for that. They need to deal with that. Your problem is, how are you going to react to it? Are you going to respond to evil with evil? Or are you going to love your neighbor as yourself? Because
that's probably the hardest thing, right?
That's the hardest.
That's probably the hardest thing out of all of it.
Yeah. So that was one of the things, that I was taught really early on. Hey, someone does evil to you. Okay, that's fine. They did evil to you. You still do good to them. And that's a great and difficult thing.
That's a great way to end this. Good job.
Thank you. I hope that works out well.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on again, Moses. You've been awesome, man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I would love to come back sometime and continue this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a couple of threads I'd like to pull on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
We'll see how many watch this. See if we get any hits.
See if we get like 3.
Yeah, three will be the goal number. If we get that, then you can come back on.
It's just going to be me creating.
just
rewatching,
leaving comments, trolling.
Wow, this guy is so ugly and stupid.
Oh
man, I think he's really smart and cool.
Exactly right. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We'll get you to work. You got to go to work, right?
I do. Yeah, I got to go. Unfortunately, I have to go to work and go make money.
Do your thing.
Do my thing. So
save America.
Yeah.
or watch
Facebook,
Netflix.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, good talking to you. Thanks.